What if the greatest challenge to the modern world is not a new invention, not artificial intelligence, not space travel, but a book revealed in the silence of the desert 1400 years ago that still refuses to be ignored? A book that does not beg for belief, does not fear scrutiny, and does not retreat when questioned, but instead turns to the human being and calmly says, "Think, observe, reflect." In an age where knowledge moves faster than ever and certainty feels increasingly fragile, this book continues to stand, not as a relic of the past, but as a voice that feels unsettlingly current. Asking questions, science is still trying to answer and pointing toward meanings many overlook. This is not about superstition or blind faith. This is about a conversation between revelation and reality that never truly ended. Before we go any further, pause for a moment and tell us where you are watching this from in the comments, and if this journey into faith, reason, and discovery speaks to you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. The Quran opens its dialogue with humanity, not by demanding loyalty, but by awakening curiosity. The very first revelation places knowledge at the center of human purpose, reminding people that learning itself is sacred and that understanding the world is an act of meaning, not rebellion. At a time when most civilizations limited education to elites, the Quran addressed all of humanity and repeatedly challenged them to use their intellect, to observe the skies, the earth, their own selves, and to question what they see. It speaks to traders, shepherds, rulers, and scholars alike, dismantling the idea that truth belongs only to a select few. Again and again, its verses echo a consistent message. Signs are everywhere for those willing to reflect. This is why its impact did not fade with time, because it did not anchor itself to one era's understanding, but instead planted seeds meant to grow as human knowledge expanded. What makes this invitation so powerful is that it does not fear human progress. The Quran does not present science as an enemy of belief, nor does it try to replace observation with mysticism. Instead, it frames the universe as a readable text, a vast system of signs layered with meaning. Every cycle of the sun, every alternation of night and day, every pattern in nature is presented as something worth studying. The Quran's tone is confident, almost daring, as if it expects future generations to discover more and more, knowing that deeper understanding will not erase faith, but sharpen it. This approach transformed early Islamic civilization into one that pursued astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy, not despite religion, but because of it. As attention shifts from the human mind to the universe itself, the Quran directs the gaze upward and outward toward the vastness of creation. It describes the heavens and the earth as being created with balance, proportion, and precise measure, emphasizing that nothing exists without purpose or order. Long before modern physics spoke of constants and finely tuned laws, the Quran repeatedly highlighted harmony as a defining feature of reality. Today, scientists acknowledge that if even one fundamental constant were slightly altered, stars would not form, atoms would collapse, and life would be impossible. The Quran does not present these ideas as mathematical proofs, but as reflections meant to stir awe and humility. This sense of order is not cold or mechanical, but deeply meaningful. The Quran describes the universe as stable yet dynamic, vast yet interconnected, reminding humanity that chaos is not the underlying rule. Everything follows a path, a measure, a rhythm that sustains existence. When modern science uncovers patterns in galaxies, symmetry in natural laws, and consistency across unimaginable distances, it echoes a worldview the Quran introduced centuries ago. Not as a replacement for scientific inquiry, but as a framework that gives it direction and significance. Rather than reducing the universe to randomness, the Quran elevates it to a sign-filled system that invites contemplation. It urges people to ask not only how things function, but why such order exists at all. This is where science meets faith, not in conflict, but in dialogue. Science maps the mechanisms, while the Quran draws attention to meaning, intention, and balance. Together, they form a lens through which the universe is not just studied, but understood as something profoundly intentional, leaving the listener with a sense that discovery itself may be part of a much greater design. The Quran draws attention to water in a way that feels almost understated, yet deeply profound. It does not describe water merely as a resource or a convenience, but as the foundation of all living things. In a world where survival in the desert depended on every drop, this statement carried weight, yet its true depth would only unfold centuries later. Modern biology now confirms that every known form of life relies on water at the most fundamental level, from the simplest microorganism to the complexity of the human body. Cells are structured around it, chemical reactions depend on it, and without it, life as we know it simply cannot exist. What makes this remarkable is not the mention of water itself, but the universality of the claim that life in all its diversity shares a single, essential origin. The Quran repeatedly invites reflection on rain falling from the sky, reviving dead land, and bringing forth plants of every kind. These descriptions are not poetic exaggerations, but observations layered with meaning. Today, science explains the water cycle in precise detail: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and renewal. Yet the Quran presented this cycle as a sign long before these processes were formally understood. It framed rain not as randomness, but as mercy, balance, and sustenance, carefully distributed across the earth. Each drop becomes part of a larger system that maintains life, echoing the idea that nothing in creation exists in isolation. This perspective shifts how one sees the natural world. Water is no longer just something consumed, but something that connects all living beings across time and space. The Quran's message encourages gratitude and responsibility, reminding humanity that the same substance sustaining their bodies also nourishes crops, animals, and ecosystems. As environmental science now warns about water scarcity and imbalance, the Quran's emphasis on preservation and moderation feels strikingly relevant. It becomes clear that this teaching was never limited to one era, but speaks directly to the challenges of every generation. From the vast systems of nature, the Quran then turns inward, directing attention to the hidden world within the human body. It describes human development as a process unfolding in stages, each one following the other with precision. At a time when knowledge of embryology was based on speculation and myth, the Quran presented a structured progression that invited reflection rather than explanation. It spoke of formation, growth, and transformation occurring beyond human sight, reminding people that their own existence began in a realm they never witnessed. Modern science has since revealed that human development does indeed occur through distinct phases, from conception to implantation to the gradual formation of organs and systems. Each stage builds upon the previous one, guided by complex biological instructions. What stands out is not that the Quran provides technical detail, but that it accurately frames development as sequential and intentional. This framing challenges the listener to reflect on the precision involved in their own creation. a process so intricate that even today it continues to inspire research and awe. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes that this process happens in darkness, concealed and protected. Only in recent times has science confirmed that the developing human is enclosed within multiple layers, shielded in ways that ensure survival. These realities, once inaccessible to human observation, now align with descriptions that encouraged contemplation long before technology made them visible. The message is subtle yet powerful, pointing to the idea that human life is not accidental but carefully nurtured from its very beginning. By drawing attention to both the origin of life through water and the development of life within the womb, the Quran creates a bridge between the external world and the internal self. It invites people to recognize that the same order governing the universe also operates within them. This realization carries profound implications, encouraging humility, gratitude, and a deeper sense of purpose. The signs are not distant or abstract. They are present in the rain that falls from the sky and in the unseen journey every human once took. Together, these reflections form a reminder that understanding life is not only a scientific pursuit, but a path toward meaning and awareness. The Quran draws attention to mountains in a way that feels both simple and deeply symbolic, describing them as stabilizing elements placed upon the earth so that it does not shake uncontrollably. To the people of the past, mountains appeared as massive, immovable structures, symbols of strength and permanence. Yet the Quran's language goes beyond appearance, using imagery that suggests anchoring and grounding, as if these towering formations serve a purpose far greater than what is visible on the surface. For centuries, this idea remained a matter of reflection rather than explanation, quietly waiting for human understanding to catch up to what was being hinted at. As modern geology developed, scientists discovered that mountains are not merely piles of rock resting on the Earth's surface. They are deeply rooted structures, often extending far beneath the crust, connected to tectonic plates and playing a role in maintaining balance within the planet's system. This revelation reshaped how mountains were understood, transforming them from passive landmarks into active participants in the Earth's stability. What makes this connection compelling is not that the Quran offers geological diagrams, but that it frames mountains as purposeful features within a carefully balanced world. The message invites contemplation rather than debate, encouraging the listener to see the earth as something engineered with care rather than assembled by chance. The Quran often pairs its mention of mountains with reminders of balance and proportion throughout creation. It speaks of the earth being spread out, stabilized, and made suitable for life, reinforcing the idea that human existence depends on systems working in harmony. Today, science confirms that the Earth's surface is in constant motion, with immense forces operating beneath our feet. Yet life continues because these forces are regulated. This harmony between immense power and delicate balance echoes the Quranic worldview, where strength is restrained by wisdom and order. It leaves the listener with a sense of awe, realizing that the ground beneath them is not static, but part of a dynamic system designed to sustain life. From the stability of the earth, the Quran then lifts the gaze upward, beyond mountains and skies, toward the vastness of the universe itself. It speaks of the heavens as something built with power and describes them in a way that suggests ongoing expansion. For much of human history, the universe was assumed to be fixed and unchanging, a static backdrop against which events unfolded. It was only in the last century that scientists discovered that space itself is expanding, with galaxies moving farther apart as time progresses. This discovery reshaped cosmology and challenged long-held assumptions about the nature of existence. The Quran's reference to an expanding, universe is striking not because it reads like a scientific paper, but because it introduces an idea that aligns with a reality uncovered thousands of years later. Its language remains open and reflective, allowing each generation to uncover new layers of meaning as knowledge advances. Rather than locking the universe into a finished state, it presents creation as something dynamic and unfolding. This perspective invites the listener to see the cosmos not as a closed system, but as an ongoing act of creation, governed by laws that continue to reveal themselves over time. Together, the imagery of mountains anchoring the earth and the universe expanding beyond imagination creates a powerful contrast. One speaks of stability, the other of motion, yet both are presented as parts of a single, coherent design. The Quran weaves these realities together to remind humanity that existence is balanced between firmness and change, between what feels solid and what is constantly moving. In doing so, it invites reflection on humanity's place within this vast system, grounded on a stable earth, suspended within an ever-expanding universe, and surrounded by signs that quietly urge the mind toward wonder, humility, and deeper understanding. The Quran consistently reminds humanity that knowledge is never neutral, and that understanding the world carries responsibility alongside insight. It does not celebrate knowledge as a tool for dominance or pride, but as a trust that shapes how one lives, treats others, and interacts with creation. In Islamic teaching, learning is an act of worship when it leads to humility, justice, and awareness of one's place in the larger order of existence. This perspective reframes intelligence not as a measure of superiority, but as a means of accountability, where every discovery deepens the question of how that knowledge should be used. As scientific advancement accelerates and human capability expands, this reminder feels increasingly urgent, urging balance between innovation and ethics. The Quran frequently connects awareness of the universe with moral consciousness, pairing observations of the skies and the earth with reminders of compassion, honesty, and restraint. It suggests that a person who truly understands creation should naturally develop a sense of responsibility toward it. Knowledge, in this view, is meant to soften the heart rather than harden it, guiding human ambition towards service rather than exploitation. This integration of science and ethics offers a contrast to a worldview where progress is measured only by efficiency or power. It presents an alternative vision, where understanding the laws of nature also means recognizing the limits placed on human behavior for the sake of balance and justice. This balance becomes especially clear when the Quran addresses humanity's tendency to become absorbed in what can be measured while neglecting what gives meaning. It acknowledges the human capacity to explore, analyze, and innovate, but consistently redirects attention toward purpose. Why was this knowledge given, and what should it lead to? The Quran does not discourage questioning, but it anchors inquiry within a broader moral framework. In doing so, it offers guidance for navigating a world where information is abundant, but wisdom often feels scarce. The listener is left reflecting on the idea that true advancement is not defined by how much humanity can control, but by how responsibly it exercises that control. As the Quran brings its message full circle, it becomes clear that its signs are not presented as proofs meant to silence doubt, but as invitations meant to awaken reflection. It does not force conclusions, nor does it close the door on questioning. Instead, it speaks to the human mind across generations, encouraging observation, contemplation, and sincere searching. Each discovery, whether in the depths of the ocean or the far reaches of space, becomes another opportunity to reflect on meaning rather than an endpoint in itself. This open-ended approach is what allows the Quran to remain relevant, engaging minds that live in worlds vastly different from the one in which it was first revealed. In the end, the Quran positions itself not as a competitor to science, but as a companion to it, guiding the human spirit alongside the human intellect. It invites people to look outward at the universe and inward at themselves, recognizing that both journeys are deeply connected. The signs it presents are woven into everyday existence, in the stability of the earth, the expansion of the heavens, the origin of life, and the growth of the human being. These reflections are not meant to conclude the conversation, but to keep it alive, reminding humanity that the pursuit of knowledge is also a pursuit of meaning. And perhaps this is the greatest invitation of all, to continue seeking, reflecting, and discovering not only the world as it is, but the deeper purpose behind it.